All right. Hello and welcome everybody to our Project Management Series Program Overview. I am Melanie Mitchell. I am the Director of Professional and Continuing Education here at PACE. So we do all of the professional and non-credit courses at Oregon State University. And here with me today is Cyndi Dionisio. She's our instructor for the entire Project Management Certificate Program courses. Hello, Cyndi.
Hi, thanks. I'm thrilled to be here and talking to everybody. I can see from people here, some of you are already in the certificate program, so that's nice. And it looks like there's a lot of new people here as well, so it's very exciting.
Great. And I want to remind everybody today's session will be recorded, and we want to engage with you through our chat features on GoToWebinar, or also feel free to raise your hand and I'll unmute you, and your questions will be addressed as we kind of go through our presentation today. It will be recorded and sent to you out with the PowerPoint slides, and any questions that you had will follow up following the webinar today within like the next 24 hours. So real quick, I want to give you a quick overview of professional continuing ed. Oregon State, we call ourselves PACE. Oregon State PACE engages in the community through educational opportunities with both personal enrichment and professional development courses. We offer hundreds of courses, a little over 200 to date. About 60 different certificate programs open to the public, and we feel our courses and programs offer tangible value, providing quality programming as well as addressing educational, professional, and economic development goals for you and your organization. So yes, we do a lot of corporate training. So if you have a critical mass, we can bring probably 5 to 8 more students, we can bring the training to you. That's usually where kind of the break even is. So we feel partnerships, whether training on site or partnerships that we offer our courses in tandem, provide opportunities for professional and continuing ed to advance careers, foster professional development, and benefit communities of all shapes and sizes across Oregon and beyond. So PACE is committed to bringing the best of Oregon State University to people of all ages and industries, and we are proud to partner with Cyndi to do just that. So thank you so much, Cyndi, for your development of this certificate program, and we're excited to explore it with you today. Now, I'm going to go over the quick agenda. I'm going to introduce you to Cyndi formally. We're going to go over her planning for the boot camp series, also the entire certificate program. We're really using this as an educational planning session, so you get a sense of what's going into all of the curriculum, the ins and outs of the content, so you can really understand the benefits of the program and understand the core competencies and what benefits you would get from taking this program. So again, engage early, ask your questions. This is a great time to engage with our subject matter expert. Let me introduce you to Cyndi. She is a project management consultant, author, and instructor. She has written 8 books on project management. She provides consulting and training services for government and private industry. Her consulting has focused on project management maturity, project management curriculum development, and the positioning project management as a core competency in organizations. Her experience in training with corporate, public sector, and also the academic environment have included the following clients: Veterans Affairs, Hewlett-Packard, Medtronic, the CIA, and also Southern California Edison. In an academic environment, she has taught in person and also online for us, Oregon State University, as well as Villanova and UC Irvine and the University of Washington. And Cyndi is an active volunteer in the Project Management Institute. She is the current chair for the PMBOK 6th edition, and we're excited to learn about that experience today as well. Prior to her start, she participated in PMI's Standard Membership Advisory Board, so she's played a heavy hand in developing and implementing the global standard for project management. And in 2009, she was awarded Distinguished Contributor for her contributions in the profession and her updates in the 4th edition. So she played a hand in the development of the 4th edition, as well as she is in the 6th edition of the PMBOK, which is the Bible there for the project management industry. So thank you, Cyndi, so much for being with us today.
You bet.
We left off the best part in the Pacific Northwest and hiking and discovering new and amazing experiences.
Yeah. So that's great. Melanie, do you if I like tell you to forward, do you want to do that, or do you want me to do that? How do you want to work it?
Let me see if I can make you a quick presenter, and then you should have control of the slide. So, oops.
Oh, no, you know what? I'd rather you do
Didn't
it
work.
so it's not, yeah, can you do that? Because my
Yes.
screen isn't set up to do that. So that I'll just tell you when to go forward. Is that okay?
Sure, absolutely. So let me
Great.
go ahead and figure out what happened to the slides. So sorry, technical difficulties. Are you seeing anything right now?
No, but you know, I can, let me
That's
just
all right.
see. Let me,
Going back up again. Sorry, it shoved me in. Yeah, I'm happy to advance the slides for you.
okay, super, super, super. Okay. And I'm not seeing the presentation again yet. Okay, great.
Okay. All right, so we're just going to ask you to share a little bit about the project camp to start.
I'm sorry, oh yeah, the boot camp. Okay, great, great, great. Okay, so, tell you guys that are here, this is like the favorite class I've ever led. I love this class so much, and it's so much fun because literally I do almost no teaching, and all the learning happens with hands-on and just trial by fire. You're working in a group with a bunch of people, and we do it in a 3-day format. So it's usually better if you have some experience in project management, or maybe you're new to it, or you've been doing it, but you have been kind of what I call bootstrapping and just making it work by sheer force of will. So you'll learn a lot of the techniques, and you'll be exposed to a lot of templates that we use to work with projects. So it's not a lot of theory. Like, we don't spend time thinking about, well, this is a Gantt chart and this is how you work it. It's really hands-on, and build a work breakdown structure, build a responsibility assignment matrix, work with a team charter. So we do that through 2 case studies. And the first case study, so usually it's always a 3-day course, and it usually runs Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So Thursday, we work on a case study, and Friday, we work on the same case study. So in that, I'll kind of give an introduction, introducing the concept of what we're going to work on, and it usually takes 5 to 10 minutes, and then the teams go work on it. And then, so a lot of the learning takes place as teams work on their assignment, and then a lot of the learning takes place in the debrief, and it takes place from looking how other teams address the same case study, and also from feedback from myself, from saying, okay, this is good. Another way to look at it is this way, or why did you think about that? Can we, kind of shift that so you understand the concept more? So a lot of it happens on the ground training. So like I said, the first case study takes place over the first 2 days. And then on Saturday, you come in and you're given a whole new case study, and you just work on it all day long. So we work on it from like 8 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. Then starting at 3, there's presentations where each team does a 15 to 20 minute presentation from what their team developed all during the day. And it's kind of funny, I led this about a month and a half ago on the OSU campus, and literally I had lost my voice by the 3rd day. I could not talk, but it's so self-driven by the students that I just put up a flip chart to say, I cannot talk, your case study is on your desk, go to town. And it worked totally fine because everybody just knew what to do and did it. So this is really, really hands-on. So next slide. Can we advance to the next slide? Awesome. So these are the artifacts, I'll say, that you're going to work through. So the first thing is you'll create a team charter, and then you'll also create a project charter. So the team charter is, how do we work together as a team? It's kind of, you might hear it called a team operating agreement. It talks about how, as a team, you're going to make decisions, how you're going to resolve conflict, communication, that type of thing, team values. Then you're given your project background, about 2 or 3 pages of project background, and you create a charter, which is a high-level description of the project. Next, you'll identify your stakeholders and start to classify them. And then we start working on the project management plan, and we work and project documents. And so some of the things we'll work on is we'll create a work breakdown structure. Those of you that are familiar with it, we call it a WBS for work breakdown structure. So you complete that. That helps you organize the scope of the project. You'll complete a responsibility assignment matrix called a RAM. If you're new to project management, we tend to abbreviate everything. You'll develop cost and duration estimates. You'll use all that information to develop a schedule. Then you'll start to look at what could go wrong and how can we get out in front of that with a risk register. We look at some of the more leadership and soft skills of effective project management. So from how to make decisions, like a decision-making model, we look at problem solving and other aspects of leadership. So those are the things that we cover in the boot camp. So if we go to the next slide, we'll kind of go over some of the objectives. So what I'll do is I'll kind of read through the objectives and you can kind of match them to the topics. So the main thing about this is we want to go over some of the basic principles. So I'm going to cover what is progressive elaboration, what's the difference between a project, portfolio, and program, how do we identify key stakeholders and develop a team charter. So the first 2 objectives there are really background information. And so the first day I'm going to spend, probably about an hour and a half of giving you information, background, foundational information. And that's the most I'm going to talk the whole time. Okay, then there's a couple aspects when you're initiating, or if you will, in project origination. And that is working with a team charter, identifying your stakeholders. And then if we go to the next slide, you'll see developing a charter, developing an actual charter. So we look at how do you correct the project. A lot of times we're just given background or a business case and like, go do this, and we immediately start doing without saying, okay, wait a minute, let me get a charter here that kind of identifies the high-level information on scope, schedule, cost, stakeholders, overall risk. So we look at how to start that correctly. And then we also start what's called an assumption and constraint log, because most of us work with assumptions in our head, and we think everybody else has the same assumptions, and often that's not. And often the assumptions that we have are what get us into trouble. They lead to misunderstandings because we think everybody sees things the way we do. So we look at assumptions and constraints, and then we start to identify our stakeholders. Any of you that have worked in project management for any length of time know that it's those stakeholders that you don't really pay attention to or think, don't think are stakeholders that can really torpedo a project if you don't pay attention to them. So we're going to start from the very beginning, identifying the stakeholders on a project. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So after we have that, what I would call that's the project origination phase, we're going to start to say, okay, now let's figure out what all the scope is of this project. And we'll define 2 types of scope. The product scope, which is, what's left standing. And then the project scope, which is how do I organize the work that has to be done? Like if you think about it, if you're doing an IT project, what's left standing might be an application or a network or something. What's not left standing is training, transition, and documentation, but that's all very important to have. So that's called project scope. So we look at organizing both of those. And then we're going to start to look at, once you've got the scope, developing a schedule. And we do that with a network diagram. Then we resource load it and estimate our team resources, that's people, and then also physical resources. So some projects mostly just use people, but a lot of projects, like if you think about construction especially, has a whole lot of physical resources. And then we'll introduce some estimating techniques, and these estimating techniques can be used to estimate effort, duration, but also project costs. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see that we use these same estimating techniques to estimate project costs And then that ends up with a viable budget. So at that point, you can baseline your scope, your schedule, and your cost. So then if we go to the next slide, you'll see that once we've got these baselines, then we're going to start talking about, okay, once you've done all that, you get your baseline, these are kind of like our marching orders, then the real fun begins, right? Then problems show up and risks occur and issues, and there's misunderstandings, and you have to problem solve. So we take a look at all these things that we really apply during the execution or the delivery or development of the product, which is solving problems, making decisions, working through different modes of conflict. Like those of you that are in class now know we just got done looking at different modes of conflict resolution, from accommodating to avoidance, compromising, collaborating, dare I say competing, which we don't use very often, but we talk about the different modes to manage conflict. Okay, next slide. So just to kind of wrap up this conversation about the boot camp is, it is on site. So the one coming up in May, is that still going to be at the Food Technology Center, Melanie?
Yes, absolutely. It's going to be at the Food Innovation Center over on NATO Parkway.
Great. Okay. So yeah, the Food Innovation, awesome learning environment, great room, lots of room to spread out, good whiteboards, everything like that. So it'll be on site. Like I said, it really is an 80-20 to working in your teams versus facilitation. So it's very action oriented. So if you're one of those people, that people learn different ways. You know, some people like to say, give me all the theory so I can chew on it and then see how to apply. This may not be the best course for you. If you're one of those people that say, hey, you know what, I learned it's, you know, theory's nice, but it doesn't do any good. I need to get my hands dirty. I need to roll up my sleeves and just do it. And then we can back into the theory, or I can understand why it's done that way and look at different options. So it's all hands-on with case studies. And then we provide templates. So one of the books I wrote is called The Project Manager's Book of Forms. And it's compliant with the PMBOK Guide, but it's a nice set of templates that you'll be working with in the classroom to fill stuff out. So you don't have to figure out, where do I document? How do I document this? You're given some templates to help you out there. The last thing I want to say is we call it a project management planning boot camp, and the boot camp word is chosen because it really is hands-on. But a lot of times people assume the term boot camp means it's a test prep, because a lot of organizations will use the term boot camp for how to cram for a test. I just want to make clear that this is not a test prep class. This is how to apply project management in the real world to your projects, not how to pass a test, not how to pass the PMP, the certified associate in project management. It really is how to hit the ground running and manage an actual project. So that being said, I want to open it up for any questions about the boot camp before I start talking about the certificate program. So if anybody has any questions, you can go ahead and type them in or raise your hand, and we'll open up a mic for you.
Yeah, so we have a couple questions that have kind of come through here. Can someone bring their own specific issues or examples to the workshop for solutions?
So that's an awesome question. We have not done that in the past. So the workshop is not designed around problem solving your specific instances. But that being said, like for instance, if I'm going over stuff in the work breakdown structure and you're saying, look, we have a problem in our work because whatever the case may be, then that's totally appropriate to do it, because like I said, a lot of the learning will take place in team conversations or in debrief. So I would feel uncomfortable if you came with, help me fix my company because they don't understand, tell me how to fix it, because that's not the right forum for that. But if you come and you say, look, I'm constantly having problems with developing good estimates, or we don't know, I don't know how to work with, risk management or decision making. I have this problem at my organization. Can you give me some insight? Absolutely, we can do that.
Great. And then one more about the boot camp so far. Keep chatting your questions in. I'll read them aloud, or you can also raise your hand, and I can see the attendees here. You can raise your hand, and I can also unmute you if you'd like to ask a question. So there's 2 in the queue. Is the boot camp designed for people new to project management or for more experienced project managers, or both?
Yeah, so both, absolutely. So I've had people come in that are totally new to project management. I will say it can be a bit intimidating because you're learning an entirely new language and an entirely new way of doing things. So you can certainly use it if you've never been exposed to project management, but I will say at the end of the day, you may have spaghetti head. You may just be like, oh my gosh, I'll never retain all this, but you will retain some of it. You may not retain all of it, but you'll retain a lot of it. For those that are experienced, like have light experience, maybe a year or so, this is really awesome to help start to codify it and solidify it. And those of you that have a lot of experience, but maybe have been doing it not within the structure of the PMBOK Guide or not in a structured way, and just say, you know what, I'm good, I'm comfortable, but I need some structure. I just need a little tune-up. It's good there too. So really, I can shape the class to meet your needs, and your team will have different degrees of experience within it too. So and that happens right in work too. You come in and you have a team and people have different backgrounds and different experiences. So, so really it's designed for anybody at any level.
Great, and we got 2 more. So the boot camp, so continuing education credits needed to take for the PMP exam, that's 35 to be exact, PDUs that your education credits that you need to have from an institution. And yes, Oregon State is a registered preferred provider, so the boot camp could count towards education credits to go and sit for that. The boot camp is registered, I believe, for 2.5 because it's 3 days, so we got 2.5 towards the 35 hours. So you'd have 24 hours towards your 35 total hours needed to sit for the exam. Cyndi, do you have anything added to that you'd want to add in regards to PDUs?
No, that's exactly right. It should be about 24 hours of the 35 that you need. So, and it's really great because, like I said, I'm not prepping you for the test, but all the experience you have and all the content is completely consistent with the PMBOK Guide, and the PMP doesn't use only the PMBOK Guide as a source, but it certainly would not have anything that's inconsistent with the PMBOK Guide is what I would say. So it's a very good course to take as you get your education hours.
Great. I'd also like to add that Cyndi did develop a PMP prep class with Wiley Publishing, and so we will be offering that PMP prep class, self-paced online course. And we're looking at ways to, loop Cyndi into that. So the formats are still to come, but late summer, early fall is kind of our target. So if anybody is interested in a true prep class, prepping yourself to go sit for that 200 question test. And right now, Cyndi, are they testing for the 5th and 6th editions, or still the 5th?
Nope, it's only the 5th, and it'll be the 5th probably at least through March of 2018, at least. Okay,
good to know. Yeah, so if there's any other questions about test prep, this is a great expert to lean on. So Nana Nguyen has a question, and I'm going to try unmuting her. All right, please ask your question aloud. You are connected. Nana Nguyen, do you have a question here?
You may be on mute yourself. I see you have a live mic and I see your hand up, but I'm not hearing anything.
Okay, well, I'll try to get her question and chat to her directly. All right, well, let's continue a little here. So we talked about course format, and let's talk a little bit about the certificate program. So this consists of 5 courses. Do you want to talk a little bit about the program?
Sure. So we have the 5 courses. Next slide will show it, but I just want to mention that it's totally aligned to the PMBOK Guide, and it is, and as I kind of mentioned, we were talking about before, the PMBOK Guide is one of the sources that's required to sit for the project management professional exam, and it's the sole source that they use for the certified associate in project management, which is a CAPM. So it's aligned with that. But what I will say is it's not based solely on that. So the certificate program does not quote the PMBOK guide, and it doesn't go in knowledge areas like the PMBOK guide. This is really much more of a project life cycle presentation. All the definitions and terminology are directly out of the PMBOK guide glossary, but the way they are presented is not, and any of you that are familiar with the PMBOK guide, which, like Melanie said, is kind of the de facto source for project management, it is presented in an input, tool, technique, and output format. The class is not, because I don't think that's the best way to learn how to apply project management. It's a good way to learn how to do a test, but not how to apply project management. So it's totally aligned with, but not duplicative of the PMBOK guide, is what I would say. All right, so if we go to the next slide, we'll see the five courses.
Go ahead. I wanted to add to it's a body, it covers the complete body of knowledge, all the different knowledge sections of that PMBOK guide, and really the body of knowledge. But and also, could you sit for both the 5th and 6th editions? I know that you had the inside scoop on the 6th edition, so when developing the content, you were aligning it to the 6th edition. But you could qualify to take for either, if you're on the cusp year, which most students are. Absolutely, no, that's true. Definitions are aligned to the 6th edition glossary, okay? Not the 5th edition. So if you have the 5th edition, you see a different glossary term, that might be why. But there's nothing that in the 6th edition that, if you will, reverses or is in conflict with the 5th edition. It's just some of the definitions have advanced, if you will. Okay, and they update, just for new people to project management in general. They go through this update every 5 years. So they do a retrospective on kind of and updating all of the curriculum. And Cyndi's had the pleasure of leading that update twice now. So thank you. It's nice to lean on your experience. All right, so talking a little bit about the curriculum here. Okay. So these are the 5 courses, and as I said, we built the OSU curriculum to kind of follow a life cycle project, and it doesn't, projects aren't nice and neat in a box. They are messy, and they have tentacles that reach everywhere, and they loop around and are iterative, but we're kind of trying to do that. So we take the first class, which is 7 weeks, and it's project management overview, which we kind of go over key concepts and how you originate a project. So we'll go through that, stakeholder identification, developing a charter, and then an overview of planning and the first part of planning, which is identifying the scope. So we do the work breakdown, structure, etc. So that's a very intense first course. The next course is one of the most technically challenging courses, the project schedule, resource, and cost planning. So that's where you take, and by the way, there's a case study that carries through the program. So it's to develop a PACER center. We'll play on Oregon State there. It's about developing a student center for adult commuting students, right? So we go through the whole charter on that, stakeholder identification for it. And then in the second class, we help to develop estimates and schedule and figure out the resources and costs that we'll need for that. And then, so those are some very technical aspects. And then we kind of take a break and pull back from the technical aspects and look at the project manager and how the project manager needs to apply project management skills such as leadership, and how do you build a high-performing team. And we look at more information there. And so that's where the current cohort is in that leadership and high-performing teams. And so you'll look at what makes a high-performing team. You'll look at motivation, what motivates people. We look at emotional intelligence, decision-making, problem-solving, conflict management, all those kinds of things that, as a project manager, that's really, that is the difference between a project manager and a really good project manager. So a lot of people can learn the technical aspect. You can learn how to schedule, but if you can't problem solve, or if you can't get people to collaborate or work together, then, or if you don't have emotional intelligence, you're not going to do a great job at project management, because really it's people do projects.
scheduling software does not do a project, the people do it. So that's really the slice we look at in leadership and high-performing teams. And then after that, we go back into some of the very technical aspects in project and issue management, project risk and issue management. So risk is uncertainty, issue, there's no uncertainty, but it's like this thing you got to deal with before you can move forward, right? So we kind of address both of those, and we get into some of the technical there. And then the certificate wraps with back with stakeholders, so we identify them in the beginning, but this looks about how do I analyze, assess, and develop strategies for dealing with stakeholders, and a lot of that is through communication, so we'll look at a communication plan. And then we look at managing the project, such as looking at performance versus plan, how to address variances, how to keep scope, schedule, and cost on track, and then the last module there will be how do you successfully close a project, right? How do you transition that, develop the lessons learned, archive everything that you need. So that's the last course. And what I would say, those of you that are having your organization contribute to these, so PMI, Project Management Institute, does something called the Pulse of the Profession. And that is, they outsource to find out a lot of this information, so it's not tainted just by their perspective, if you will. But they found that those organizations that are high performing with regards to project management, and high performing means they have more projects come in on time, on budget for the scope they originally wanted, 77% of the high performing ones provide ongoing project management training. And I think that those that don't, it's more like in the 40%. So there's a huge difference in the outcome of projects for those organizations that invest in training project managers. Okay, so we'll go to the next slide. So the first two courses will happen in fall. So literally it'll go from September 11th all the way up to right before Christmas. So you'll get all kinds of technical stuff, and then you have Christmas break to kind of like catch your breath. And then you'll come back in the winter in January, and we'll talk about leadership. And then in like late February, we'll start risk and issue management. And then in April, we'll wrap up with managing projects and stakeholders. So we'll go to the next slide, and we'll look at kind of those, what you'll learn or objectives. So we start with how to effectively start a project, and then how to define the scope. And as important as defining what's in scope is clearly defining what's out of scope, because that leads to a lot of conflicts by not clearly stating up front the scope excludes that. We'll look at estimating resources and duration in the schedule. We'll look at, once you have your durations, network diagram, and resources, we can build a realistic schedule, and then we'll look for how to estimate costs and create a budget. Next slide. So then after the break, you'll look at those behaviors, you'll look at team motivation and high-performing teams, conflict management, and then you'll look at how to identify, analyze risk, and your different options for responding to individual risks and overall project risk. And then we're going to look at how to work with your stakeholders and how to identify and manage project performance variances, because nobody expects a project to come in exactly on time, exactly on budget, because life happens. You know, planning is planning. It's not telling the future, right? So how do we look and manage those performance variances successfully? All right. So that is what I've got as far as the program. It starts September 11th, and I'm going to turn it back over to Melanie to kind of talk through a lot more information on the program offerings and the certificate and everything like that.
Yeah, so the offering, like I said, does start in September 11th. So we kind of go with a cohort model for this offering. There's some of the classes you can take they are open for enrollment. You can take them one-off, like the leadership course. But the courses towards the bottom of the certificate, let me go back here, risk and issue management and managing project stakeholders. Cyndi, you did want a prerequisite to those, correct? You want to talk through that a little bit?
Yeah, exactly. So if you are new to project management, I would not recommend starting at project risk and issue management. You just won't have the foundation to be able to make it meaningful. If you have experience in project management and you just want to pop in and get some information on risk and issues, that's fine. I mean, I'm using the same PACER projects. So you're kind of coming in where most of the class will have background working with PACER, but I provide the charter so you can kind of get up to speed on it. But really, I would recommend, if at all possible, if you think you want to take it, try and take it from start to finish. If you start in the middle, that's great. We can work through it, but it'll be easier on you to start on the front end. And if you're right now thinking, man, I really want to do this, this is great, great, great. If you have experience in managing projects, let me know, and and we'll talk about if it's appropriate for you to start in with the risk and issue management. I definitely wouldn't recommend starting with the last class first and then starting from the beginning, but we can work it out. I mean, Melanie and I are really, really flexible. We both want the students to win, so we're going to do whatever we can to make that happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, so right now our demand is we're offering it, once a year, but again, as it grows, offering some more classes starting in spring, a new cohort, and then roll through summer and fall, and just kind of sprinkle in some other courses. But always write in. We have, a great front lines to answer any of your questions. And Paula Matano, who's also here with me today, is the project manager for the certificate, and she's happy to discuss with you any of the questions. And then myself and Cyndi are also available with other questions as well. So we have a great team here. All right, so again, the offerings here, we have a link to the course schedule, so we'll be sharing these slides with you. And talking a little bit about online, so the courses are paced by Cyndi week to week. She's kind of leading you through projects and discussion boards and different opportunities to engage with your peers and work on projects, answer questions, but also there's an opportunity to do this we call it asynchronous. So it's really at your pace throughout the week, even though it's a week of assignments and a week of activities. But it's really at your convenience as it rolls through online. And we're trying to make it more highly interactive and being able to kind of help guide you through all of the courses we're relying on Cyndi's expertise. So whether you're taking it 100% online or face-to-face, we're really striving for that very practical interactive experience, as Cyndi discussed earlier. And so talking a little bit about certificate programs, we found some sources we get this question a lot. And actually, I think there was a question already on here today about the certificate. Maybe Cyndi, you want to help lean on this a little bit, but project management certificate compared to an MBA. How would you compare the certificate compared to an MBA?
So I think that's an interesting question, because there are actually master's degrees in project management, but really I think those get more into kind of the esoteric quantitative aspect. I think that for so I have an MBA, but as a working professional, if you're in project management, I think the certificate is going to help you in your career quite a bit. It's not the level of rigor and research that you would bring to a master's degree, but it is much more applied hands-on. So I know when I was in my master's, let me say it a different way. For the degree of work you're going to do in each class, it's designed to spend, maybe 4 to 8 hours in general of work per week. So that might be in completing an assignment. It might be in writing a paper. At this point, we haven't assigned textbooks. I think, we're going to, as we finish the report, we're going to be looking at, kind of consistent improvement. How do we consistently improve? So we'll be looking at a lot of stuff, but it's not the degree of rigor of a master's degree, but it's definitely a degree of rigor. And I think as a project manager, as you're starting out in project management, the certificate in project management is going to be more useful for you in the job. Where I would say, to compare with an MBA, I would say if you're mid-career project manager and looking to move up in that program, like be a program manager or take on very, very large projects, or even a portfolio manager, then you can start to say, okay, how will the learning of an MBA benefit me? And there's definitely some benefits as you get into program and portfolio management, or very large multi-year projects that have like business cases and things like that. So I don't know that I exactly answered the question, but that's just kind of off the cuff, my experience.
Great, yeah, thank you. So we kind of saw that those with associate's degree, there was, we're looking for that added benefit to their resume and to their experience. And so 43% from the U.S. Department of Education quoted that 43% also obtained a certificate. And those with a bachelor's degree looked for that added benefit, and 27% also earned a degree. And so really our target audience are working professionals, people that are looking into getting into the career, getting into project management. And we actually have a question from somebody, Nana Wing wrote in, says she's not in the business field, she's actually in the pharmacy program, and can she take the class? Absolutely. So all the classes are open enrollment. You pay as you go. They're all priced currently at $487, so they roll up just under $2,500, and we don't have textbooks in the majority of the classes. We have recommended readings and we have recommended textbooks, but we're trying to, kind of contain those costs for those that are, looking for continued education. There's also we're wrapping this program within, 3 quarters, so we're looking at like anywhere from 9 months of study. So the costs are significantly less than degree programs, and we do also align with different funding agencies and finances. We do have financing available, so I'll talk about that in just a minute. So yeah, for example, we have many people in Six Sigma, and that was actually another question. There's somebody on the line that has taken the Six Sigma training, someone on the line that's taken the pharmacy training. I mean, any of those professionals and those different skill sets definitely need project management to be good at their profession. Cyndi, do you want to weigh in on, I know, for example, in pharmacies, there's management, there's leadership, there's, different process improvement strategies that would, lean on. So understanding a good foundation of project management and knowing your stakeholders within the pharmacy, knowing your costs of operations. And Cyndi, I don't know if you want to add anything to that with pharmacy or Six Sigma and how these, really project management can be essential across most all industries, I would say.
Yeah, and absolutely. So project management is one of those things that cuts across industries. But so specifically speaking to pharma, anytime you're going to a drug trial, that is a huge project. I mean, it is massive. And those of you that have, that are in that know that it is. It's a several, when I worked at Medtronic, they would do trials more for, things that are inside your body, not drugs or anything like that, but, like pain maintenance, medication, stuff like that. So the FDA has all these requirements and stuff. And so that whole thing is a project. And so thinking about how you run a drug trial is a very big project that project management is definitely very, very useful for. Now, with relationship to Six Sigma, so Six Sigma is really about process improvement and keeping errors out of an end product. So there's a whole slice of projects that are about process improvement. And so definitely using project management when you're trying to do a process improvement project is a really nice alignment. Where I will say I've seen this is my opinion, this is not anybody else's opinion, so I'll give you my opinion only. Where I have seen some mischief is when people think that Six Sigma is project management, or project management has to use all the quality tools used in Six Sigma. So because it's challenging so when we talk about quality in project management, there's product quality and there's project quality. So if we look at the PMBOK guide, we can't really talk about product quality because it has to apply to IT, construction, process improvement. It has to apply to every country across the world, all industries, right? So you can't really talk about product quality. You got to talk about project quality, and applying a lot of the Six Sigma tools and stuff for project quality is a little bit challenging, but for a long time, people want to dump all those quality tools into project quality management, maybe not the best fit. So just a little insight into the industry's dirty laundry. There's a little bit of thing about how much overlap there should be with Six Sigma and project management. So I would definitely say there's some overlap, but not every project needs to apply the degree of rigor that you'll see in a Six Sigma project. That would be my comment on that.
That was great. That was excellent. Thank you so much. So we're really, focusing on being practical and applicable in our courses, being coached and mentored by a real world expert with lots of opportunities to network and to connect with fellow students and also with instructors will be great. I think there's also another question here. William wrote in. He's looking to bolster his experience and his CV, and he has a dual advanced degree and extensive experience in healthcare. So again, kind of leaning on Cyndi's answer there on it crosses across all industries. He's asked, do we envision that this certificate would be a key component to bolster up his CV? I would again nod yes, this certificate would be very valuable to you when working and continuing to work in the healthcare industry. And Cyndi, do you have a comment to that as well?
Well, yeah, so my background was healthcare, and I left that 20 years ago, so it was a very different environment, but I worked at an HMO running projects there, and I would do anything from acquisitions to rolling out new lines of business and stuff. And I know that HIPAA compliance has changed a lot of stuff, but it really depends on what aspect. If you're working in IT in healthcare, always anything from patient care, PHI information, or developing new technologies in healthcare. So if you're on the insurance or even the hospital and delivery side, there's always projects. Anytime, think about it this way, anytime there's a change, it's usually, or dare I say should be, run via a project, because so a project is temporary and unique, right? So it's a one-time thing. So you can't really use operational definitions or operational skills. It's a disruption. So how do you manage that disruption well? And it occurs in healthcare as well as everything else. So definitely I would see that. Just the only other thing I want to add about that is it's my feeling that the higher up levels of management in tomorrow's business should have experience not just in operations, but in projects as well. I think one of the big challenges we see as project management is people are so operations driven, they don't understand the constraints of project management, and so they make these unrealistic demands and have unrealistic expectations. I look forward to, as project management becomes mainstream, that as senior level managers, there's an understanding of both operations and what it can and can't do, and projects and temporary projects and what they can and can't do. So I would say it would put you at definitely a competitive advantage to have a background in both.
Wonderful. So we do have some funding available. Our courses are sponsored by Workforce Investment Act of WIOA. And so if you have if you're currently unemployed, you can go down to your local one-stop center and apply for your funding to go towards this certificate program. Also, a part of the TAA, this is if your job was shifted overseas, and you can use your TAA funds to fully cover the certificate as well. Let's see. So we also have some other federal programs and military and veterans family benefits through the GI Bill, and also the Lifetime Learning Credit. So there's more resources available through AmeriCorps as well. That funding is now available. So please write in if you have any of these funding streams, and we can work with you to apply those funds towards the certificate programs here at Oregon State. We also offer corporate training. So Cyndi's had a lot of experience with this. So we basically provide these same courses or customize the solution on site for your company and your company wherever it may be. It doesn't necessarily have to be in Oregon. We also have had some success with running this industry or company-wide. So we've had maybe a cohort begin in Oregon and then roll it out to their other sites across the U.S. And so we're basically offering at a convenient, flexible time for the staff of the company with the same university-approved curriculum and instructors. We have a dedicated team here at PACE to help facilitate all those logistics, be the project managers for the training, and we can help just talk about the options and come to you to talk about those options at no fee or no charge. So reach out to us if this is also of interest. We also have some other programs within our portfolio that bridge, as we talked about today, in Lean Six Sigma. We have more leadership offerings, web design development. We also have management for pharmacists. So there's a lot of interest in healthcare on the line today. So we do have other opportunities for expanding your education. I'll take a few more questions. But I did want to also tell you that we're also applying a 10% discount for thanking you for being a part of our webinar today. So following this webinar, when I send out the slides, we'll send you a promo code to enter as upon registration for either the online certificate series or the boot camp coming in Portland. And let's see, so we talked a little bit about price. The price of each class is $487. You pay as you go, or you can buy the whole bundle, which is great. Cyndi also commented about the units and the overall program being 5 classes. I think it's a total of about 120 hours. 120 hours, so that's 12 PDUs or 12 continuing education units, so it's usually 10-to-1 ratio there. And let's see, so we're saying week to week, anywhere from 4 to 8 hours, depending on your experience and the project weight, kind of balancing anywhere between 4 to 8 hours of work time. So that answers a few questions that have been coming in. Let's see, and yeah, I think that's all the questions so far. Thank you so much for writing in your questions. Let's see if there's any other slides to share. These are the dates one more time. May, Cyndi will be in Portland running a 3-day class like she shared. Then the cohort begins again September 11th, and you can access all of the information. We also have syllabi online, so you can see the ins and outs of the content and what's happening each week. And the program and for all the courses, like we said, are designed across all industries, public and private sector. And anybody that has, some experience would definitely benefit, and also those that are new to the career in the industry. These are just great opportunities for you to get some ROI on your education, being able to diversify your resume skills. Many people are also applying for project management jobs, and so that is, I think, Indeed.com quoted that being a pretty high salary in project management. Is there some resources, Cyndi, that you have looked at in the past? I know PMI used to publish some work source information on project management in the field.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure as far as like job openings or stuff like that. PMI is kind of going through a reorg, so I don't know if they're really focusing on career as much. So I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't know.
That's all right. So I think I have one link to job sourcing for project managers. So I'll be happy to add that in the email that goes back out. But yeah, so we actually got Carrie just threw in a question real quick. She's in the arts developing a touring app project. Wow, that's fascinating. How would this program specifically benefit her? So she's looks like an app developer, and she's developing a touring app. I'm not quite sure if it's again, maybe tourism, and looks like maybe a web developer. How would this program specifically help her, Cyndi?
Yeah, so absolutely everything. So from defining the scope, what's in and out of scope, defining the life cycle of development, the resources that you need for that, being able to develop realistic expectations for your schedule and your budget, thinking about risks, identifying stakeholders both for the product and for the project and how to communicate with them effectively. So there's, I mean, everything in app, you know, app development is a project. If it's a, you know, even things that are one-person projects, like, so for instance, we look at this project of developing OSU's curriculum, right? Pretty much a one-person project. There are a lot of people that are stakeholders that are helping, like Laura, who has the online aspect of it, and Paula and Melanie, who's the sponsor. But you know, we go through a very similar thing, process, like what's in and out of scope, what are our schedules, what's our hours estimates and stuff like that. So anything, you can use this for anything, and absolutely for developing an app. What I would say is, for smaller projects, you may not use everything, but you got to know a lot to know which tools are the best to use in which situations. So we spend a lot of time thinking about tailoring what you need to use for your specific project.
Wonderful. She said, thank you so much. Great response, very encouraging, what she wrote back.
Good.
Well, great. So here's our contact information. We want to connect with you further than this webinar. We're going to save parts of this webinar and post them up on our website as well. So reach out to us, and we get started in May. So please contact us if you have any more questions. Thank you all for being a part of our webinar. Thank you, Cyndi, so much for allowing Oregon State to lean on your expertise and give you a platform to teach to all of the students and all of the Oregonians out here. So thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.